On today's episode of Hello Road, I'm going to give you a tour of Liam Nissan. Cue the montage. Hey everybody, Ethan here. Welcome to Hello Road. So with the coronavirus situation that's been going on, I've been spending most of my time at home. The cars have been pretty much sitting. I haven't really been driving much other than just going to the grocery store. So I figured today might be a good day to do an in-depth tour of one of my vehicles. And I thought, let's do an in-depth tour of Liam Nissan. This is our 24 Hours of Lemons race car. I can tell you some stories about where it got some of its dents, where we came up with the idea, all the things that are broken with it. Let's dive into it. So some of you might be unfamiliar with 24 Hours of Lemons. It's endurance racing for $500 cars. The spirit of the race is to take a terrible car, dress it up in a ridiculous theme, and race the crap out of it. Now you might be thinking, how can I create a race car for just $500? Well, you can't really. That $500 budget is only for the car. Safety gear is exempt from that. So you can spend as much money as you want on a roll cage, brakes, that kind of thing. It's a lot more than $500 to create a Lemons race car. It's still probably one of the cheapest forms of racing you can get into, but still, it's not that cheap. We paid $800 for this car back in 2015. We sold off some parts to get it under that $500 limit, but we spent way more on safety gear than we did for the actual car. The car is actually the cheapest part of the whole equation. And with Lemons, it's not just about racing. It's not just about the competition. It's also about just ridiculousness. It's about having fun. People dress up, wear all sorts of ridiculous costumes. It's sort of like Halloween meets race car driving. I've heard that said before a few times. It's about taking your terrible car and making it something that people can enjoy and get a laugh at. And that's where Liam Nissan comes in. It's kind of just a dumb joke that we took too far. And now we get so many compliments on our terrible, poorly executed theme, but we can't change it because so many people love it, which is great. I love that so many people love this car. It's just a silly joke, but we couldn't change this theme now even if we wanted to. People get so upset at us. So yes, this is going to be Liam Nissan until the point at which we push this car off a cliff. Now, there are some 24 Hours of Lemons builds that have included some really incredible fabrication, ingenuity, and skill. We don't have any of that. Our theme consists of printer paper, ink, and packing tape. That's it. So we make sure when we go to the racetrack, we bring about a dozen rolls of this stuff to make repairs at the track. Now we should probably take a close-up look at some of these photos that we've chosen for this vehicle. This one right here is probably one of my favorites because we often have this expression at the racetrack. What happened? Why is our car terrible? Why are we so slow? Why did we crash? And if you see my other videos with this car, you've probably also seen this photo. I always just kind of wonder how this photo came to be and who approved it and whose idea it was. I just have a lot of questions here. A lot of questions. And obviously this one right here is perfect for the front of the car. It gives a nice mean look to it. I can't remember the name of the movie that this was from, that wolf movie. And then compared to this photo right here, where it looks like Liam has just stepped outside of a nursing home and he's kind of forgotten who he is. He's walking around like, am I a famous movie star or I need some milk? Can you give me a glass of milk, please? And of course you need the photo from the movie Taken.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Another strange press photo right here. I'm gonna punch you, but I'm gonna give you a flower first. I'm standing here at the gym, completely naked, staring off into the distance. So with all this paper and tape on this vehicle, you might not even recognize what car this is. This is a 1997 Nissan 200SX SER. We've actually called it the 200SUX, sort of as a nod to RoboCop. And also because the car does suck. It's pretty bad. But in reality, this car is a lot of fun to drive. So this is a front-wheel drive 200SX. It's the B14 platform. It's based on the Nissan Lucino. It's essentially a two-door Sentra. And this being an SER is what makes this vehicle so special. Under the hood is, well, actually, there's nothing currently under the hood, but what was under the hood was an SR20. It's a 2.0 liter Nissan motor making about 140 horsepower. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's got a 7,500 RPM red line. It's a nice lightweight package for that motor. It's a lot of fun. The 200SX doesn't quite get as much love as the previous generation B13, which is the Sentra SER, but I think this thing is quite underrated. This is as good as the B13 in the right hands with the right modifications, I think. This one's not. This one's terrible, but it's still a lot of fun to push around a racetrack. Okay, about that missing motor, let me tell you a little bit more about what went on there. So this is the SR20 that I kind of overheated the crap out of at our last race. We thought we were having some cooling issues earlier in the day.
It's kind of sitting hot right now, but it wasn't that bad on the track. Okay. That's weird. I don't like that.
And then we thought we had it sorted out. But then towards the end of the day, we realized that the temperature had been spiking and dropping and spiking and dropping, and we hadn't noticed. And pretty much what was happening is the head gasket was failing, we think, and it was sending all the water out the tailpipe. So we didn't realize we were basically killing the motor. This motor is done for. I actually just bought a replacement SR20, which is right here, which we haven't done anything with yet other than sort of clean up. So that's gonna go in the car soon because it's gonna cost way more to fix this one than it would be to just buy a junkyard motor. So that's what we have here. So maybe if I have time, I'll start pulling this apart and kind of seeing like how bad this is, but I have a feeling there's nothing salvageable inside this motor. I mean, just check out the results of the compression test that we did at the track. It's pretty sad. Official compression, 62. 3, 25, 60. It's supposed to be like 160 all the way across, so 3 is not good. So with coronavirus social distancing in place, the motors have just been sitting here for the last several weeks, not really been able to get the team together to actually work on this. Hopefully, when this is all done, we can get this engine in this car. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do it myself. And I, as I've mentioned before several times on this channel, I'm a terrible mechanic, so we'll see. Maybe I'll use it as an opportunity to learn something. All right, so what else can I tell you about this car? Oh, the green, that's something we can talk about. So the Liam Nissan theme has undergone a few changes. We've had a few different variations of this vehicle, but most of them involved tape and paper. There was one point where we thought, okay, the tape and the paper is really kind of not working out very well. Let's strip it all off and we'll paint the car one solid color. And we thought it would be a great idea to use house paint. You know, it's super cheap, it's a Lemons car, and we thought it would just be silly to kind of roll it on. So we had a fun time rolling on paint and painting this thing. I believe the color was Lime Merida. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. However, that race at Thunderhill, I think it was in 2015, it rained and rained and rained and rained. And you know that interior house paint doesn't really go so well with water. So the paint kind of flaked off everywhere. I still have bits of green everywhere in my garage. There's bits of green all over my yard. The house paint was a terrible idea. So that's why there's still a little bit of remnants of the green here. After that terrible experience in the rain, we stripped off most of the house paint and went back to the paper and tape, which is good because everybody hated the green anyway. But here on the side is the only remnant that we saved from that theme. My wife painted portraits of Liam, and I thought those were pretty cool, so we wanted to keep them on here. But as you can see, this paper and tape theme is not immune to issues. We have a little bit of repair work we have to do over here. All right, let's talk about some of the dents that we've gotten during competition. I should put competition in quotes because we try to compete, but we're pretty terrible. So this one right here was one of the most recent dents. It's kind of hard to see, but this door has a little dent right in here. So this dent right here happened when our teammate Brian was driving.
He was like going pretty slow, right? And like get through here, and then there was some people merging and stuff. But I was in front of him, and then when we got into the turn, he just slammed into me. Yeah.
It was a pretty hard hit. We had to bang this out to be able to open the door, but not nearly as bad as some other crashes I've seen in Lemons. And here's another one right here that happened to us at Sonoma. Not a big deal, a little dent right there. I think that was probably when Charles was driving. Now this dent right here, it's a pretty small dent, but this one kind of pissed me off a little bit because I was driving. Somebody dive bombed me, essentially, and slammed into my door. He made it so we couldn't open the door. This was a 2-car team, and then their other car hit my brother while he was driving. So one race, 2 cars from their team hit us. So this is another one of our bigger incidents that we had, and this is due to my brother Brian, who was racing at Sonoma, and he lost it in the rain and kind of spun. It was a sort of a slow spin, but another car, a Civic, just clipped us enough where it ripped off the bumper. Everything was kind of demolished in the front, and yeah, we were without a bumper for a while, and we found this one super cheap, and that was when we painted the car green, so that's why it's green. So that's why our car has a stupid green bumper. The paint just decided to stick to this and not to the rest of the car. So luckily no suspension damage, purely cosmetic. So when we first started racing, we didn't have any radios or anything like that. So we would just go out for an hour and come back in when we were done. So we couldn't radio back to the team to let them know how the car was doing or anything like that. So we ended up buying some cheap Baofeng radios on Amazon. We got some really cheap antennas. That's probably been my favorite improvement that we made to the car, are the radios, to be able to communicate with the team so we know what's going on. Not that it actually helps our performance or helps us do any better in terms of position, but it's nice to just be able to chat with the rest of the team. Now let's take a look inside. Now I've talked about this roll cage in previous videos, but this is a really stout roll cage built by Blackbird Fabworks out here in the Los Angeles area. And we added a few additional things that were not required by the Lemons rules. We added these foot bars down here, which adds a little bit more protection down by your feet. And that wasn't a requirement, but we thought, let's add a few additional bars just to make this thing a little bit stronger. I asked my brother to race with me. I got my friends racing with me. Safety is the #1 thing for me. I wanted a really, really good roll cage. I wanted a really good halo seat. And that's why even sometimes we'll run with this center net. That's another thing that's not a requirement, but that adds a little bit more protection in the case of side impact. We got really, really good belts. So really, we try to do as much as possible to make this a really safe experience. And I would recommend anybody that's getting into Lemons or anybody that's getting into any kind of racing, just spend a little bit of extra money on the safety gear. Even helmets. Like, I see people that spend like, I want to only spend like 200 bucks on a helmet. I want to go super cheap. It's like, it's your head under there. Buy a nice helmet. Buy a nice helmet. All right, the other thing that we have here that is not a requirement by Lemons is a window net. Now there's some schools of thought that say a window net is actually worse for safety because it's just another thing that you have to remove to get out of the car in case of a fire or some other incident. The other school of thought is the window net's great because stuff flies on the racetrack. I used to race Spec Miata. I ran over a brake rotor. I have no idea how there was a brake rotor in the middle of the racetrack, but I don't want a brake rotor being bounced around and then flying through my window. So for me, I like having the window net. There's been plenty of things that have been flying around on the track that I feel like this is a good insurance policy here. Just have a plan to know that this is one more thing you have to take off when you want to get out of the car. All right, what else can I show you in here? Actually, how about a view from the driver's seat? Okay, so this is the Sparco steering wheel that we have in the car. This actually was kind of an expensive wheel, but I love the shape of it. I love the size. It's got a really good feel to it. We maintain the original gauges, and as you can see, we put a little warning there. Please don't go over the red line. Just stop right there. No, no. You might be able to see this car has 187,000 miles on it. I believe about 6,000 of those miles have been racing miles, so this car has seen a lot of track time. So there you have it, Liam Nissan. I'm probably going to be spending a little bit more time with this car over the next several weeks as I try to get this thing back together. You'll see how well that goes. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see. The Lemons racing schedule is completely up in the air right now. I know a lot of races have been canceled, so this car is probably going to sit in this garage for quite a while. I think now I'm going to spend some time with that old motor, tear it apart, and see how terribly I ruined it. See you later. Where do I start?